Raise your voices, raise your glass high. Welcome to the Drink O'Clock Podcast. Let's dive. Oh, grab an old fashioned and join the fray. Raise your spirits, let the music play. From the corner pub to the dance hall floor. Drink O'Clock Podcast, we're ready for more.
We are live. This is the
Wonderful.
Drink O'Clock Podcast, baby. Finally, we're live, right? My name is Rob Valincius. I am your glorious host, and I have the pleasure of having with me Garrett Hardy. Now, Garrett, you're an author, and this is a long name, so I have it over here. Through Reno Mess, Contractor Proof Your Home and Budget, Reno Mess Tribe, which came out in January, man. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So, look, man, I mean, I know before I hit record, you and I was telling you I'm a big HGTV guy. Probably actually less than I used to. So, I watch probably a lot more of the Food Network now. It's once you start watching the Food Network, it's hard to stop. And now I've spent so much money I just ordered we just got it today, a brand new blender with a food processor and all this other shit, because we had one that was from probably like 1980 that we've been using. And I'm like, all right, I need something that can liquefy, or chop shit up if I need to. But yeah, HGTV was always fun to watch. Always, you got the Property Brothers, and then you got Allison, where she was in Chicago, and then she went to Vegas. So there's a couple shows we latched on to that we still will check out. We like the Lottery Dream Home, which is always a hilarious watch because you have people that were pretty poor that want a shit ton of money and they're just buying crazy houses. But look, let's start with this. So obviously I don't know you. My audience doesn't know you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, growing up. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And what kind of got you into, this glorious Reno side of things? Because I know everyone's kind of got their backstory, right? What's your origin story, Garrett?
Oh, that would be long.
Hey, we're here for you, brother.
Been doing it a long time. I'm born in England, emigrated to Canada with my parents way back in the day.
Okay.
Moved all over. My dad worked for one of the major banks, so got to see a lot of the country as he moved around, and saw a lot of homes in the process. Somewhere along the way, at a very early age, I was into design and building furniture out of nothing, and on your days off as a kid. I guess every day is a day off as a kid.
True.
To some degree. So huge imagination and like no limits kind of thing, and just a lot of drive. And somewhere along the way that led me into a degree in commercial interior design. And they told me at school, if you do residential, you're wasting your time. Just do commercial. These are all the professor types with the black turtlenecks, and
Oh yeah,
it's like we're better than everybody else kind of thing, but we don't say it. And we just tell everyone they don't have good taste, and that was sort of the way it appeared to be from a young person's perspective back in the day. I mean, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is simply because the problems that exist in the residential construction industry have been there for as long as anybody can remember. I mean, you watch a lot of HGTV. I used to be on a show called Kitchen Equipped, which was an HGTV Canada show.
Oh, nice.
Back in the day. So I did a few episodes of that for them. And they would normally call you up last minute and say, oh, we had a cancellation. Can we film your project, in 2 days. And then I'd call my client and they'd panic and they'd be like, oh, I got to get the cleaner in and, you know, get everything film ready kind of thing. And then
That's funny.
we'd do the whole show. And it was, they're fluff pieces more than anything. You're not diving into the whys of the project or the mindset of the client or any of that.
Yeah.
But as you go through and you see all these projects over the years happen, and I mean, I had the good fortune of working all up and down the eastern seaboard, projects from Miami up into Muskoka, which is Toronto's kind of cottage country, north of there. So you've got a cottage that's, maybe 15,000 square feet or something.
Wow.
That only gets used a couple of times a year type of thing. So
Must be nice.
yeah, so I mean, you've got the good fortune of working on all those very luxurious projects where you've got a whole host of experts working on it. And if it takes a little longer, if it costs an extra 100 grand or something, it's not the end of the world. And these projects happen because these people have good cash flow, they've got multiple streams of income, they've got multiple properties, they might have a seasonal lifestyle. So you get to work in Florida on one of their properties in the off season when it's too hot for anybody to be outside.
Yeah.
But that's when all the work happens, right? And then when it's winter time and everything's beautiful, then they get to come and enjoy it. And we get to thank them for the their patronage, basically, for doing these projects, which is wonderful. But that is not everyday construction,
That's
right?
quite true.
Everyday construction is, I got a project I saved up for over a period of time, and this is all the money I've got, or I've taken, money out of my mortgage or something, right? So, this is equity you can't really afford to gamble with.
Yeah.
Whether it's a 20,000, 50,000, 150,000, even $300,000, whatever the amount happens to be, right? It's a lot of money to you, right? And you're trying to do a meaningful project that's going to improve your life, your lifestyle, your family. You're going to grow into it, whatever the thought process is, right? But there's no checks and balances there. There's no system of people like me, designers, architects, top tier builders, that are charging a lot of money, way more than a project of that scale can afford to support. So you're stuck with, you tell me, how would you go about hiring a contractor?
Oh, I have no look. I am one of those people where I have a degree in IT, so building computers and tech, that's my thing. I don't venture outside of that too much if it's something I don't know. So like we had last summer, we got a fence, which was a whole thing. I had to yell a lot, which I never yell at people. I'm pretty good with that. But like they literally dropped off like tons of cement, bags of cement on my lawn, and then we're like, all right, we're not gonna be there for a week. I'm like, no, I live in Philly, man. You can't just drop a pallet of cement on a lawn and expect it to stay there. I mean, I have cameras, but what does that do? But I love the fence. The fence is, especially we live so close to other people. It's been a beautiful thing. I mean, we had an old awning taken down, and we had a nice gazebo put up, and then also our air conditioning died and had to have a heater air conditioner totally replaced. So that all happened in a span of like within a year, actually pretty much probably within 6 months of each other. But we lived last summer without an air conditioner, and I had the little the little units you can buy that you stick out the window with a hose. We lived with that. as a late 30s man, I can't live like that. Like because that only cools like a room and a half. I bought one of the most expensive ones you can buy. We even looked at getting a split put in, and it would have cost, instead of the $6,000 it costs for the heat, or $7,000, whatever it was, or $6 or $7,000, to put that in, it would have cost like $4,000 to put a split. I'm like, well, if you're already spending the money, you might as well just do it so that the whole house is fully covered, right? Because it would be silly to not do that. But I had I getting those. I mean, I mainly just went through Lowe's, and but I would have no idea where to go to find like a reputable contractor.
Right. Well, I mean, you're the perfect person then that I'm speaking to in the book and in the courses that I've put out as well on this, because there's an asymmetry of knowledge there. Your fence contractor, he knew his process. He knew, we drop a pallet of concrete off, and then when we finish the project we're working on right now, we pop over and we start yours, and the material be there waiting for us. But there was no discussion. There's no, I love grass, and you're hurting my soul to damage my grass, or you're in a neighborhood where someone's going to take something, or whatever the case is. The point is, there's no discussion.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're doing a kitchen remodel or something, and now they're actually inside your home, and now your family's being inconvenienced as well, and then they take 2 days off because it's Tuesday. There's stuff going on. I've had guys leave doing one of these big cottages up north, and we're pushing a timeline, and it's like, well, where'd the AC guys or the HVAC guys go? And it's like, well, it's elk season. And I'm like, that's not on the schedule.
Yeah.
There's no right. So this is the realities that you're dealing with people, and you can't put all those asynchronous events on a schedule, right? But you have to have enough checks and balances in place to protect you and your money and your time, right? Because your time is also your money.
Yeah.
So, and that, difference of knowledge and the lack of process. Like, if you do find a good contractor, there's lots of good contractors out there, but you're kind of gambling, because it's a little bit like speed dating. Everyone's on their best behavior. You're going to meet this guy 2 or 3 times, maybe. Maybe he'll go show you a project he did last year or something, and then you're going to sign over your life savings and hope for the best.
See, that's a crazy process to me, man.
But why has it gone on like this for as long as anyone can remember?
I mean, if I had to take a guess at this, which you probably already know or have a guess, I would say it's because these guys are, especially in today's market, are highly sought after and in demand, and they can get away with doing what they want because that's just the world we live in now. Now, maybe 20 years ago, different story. But now, I mean, I know people that, if I called to do our roof, because our roof needs to be redone, they wouldn't step foot on top to do our roof if it wasn't a $10,000 project,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, that pressure will equalize as the economy changes and AI and everything else takes over to some degree. But the problems have been there through economic cycles for a very, very long time. I mean, my father's in his late 70s, and I said, "Do you remember a time?" He's like, "No, it's always been that way." Right? So it's so what do you do? Because it's a low barrier to entry. Anyone with a pickup truck and a hammer can be a contractor.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got your apps that show you, you know, who's got a 5-star rating, who's got reviews. And I mean, can you trust those? The reviews from 2 years ago, you know, that contractor, that company has changed, right? The trades have come and gone, and, you know, it's not necessarily the same business. And then the business itself has growing pains as well. Maybe as a young business in the first 2 or 3 years of operation, it's all like upswing.
Yeah.
And then maybe the contractor has children and life changes and takes on more personal expenses, and then the business isn't as stable because of that, potentially. I mean, my point is simply, how long does any small business, what's the lifespan of any small business, right? And then you look at that arc, right? And you're not thinking of things like that. uh, you you're looking at, you know, maybe I'll get how many quotes? 3, maybe 4, right, on average.
Yeah.
And when I've asked people about this, it's like, well, how would I find time to do more than 3 quotes, right? I mean, I'm busy. I'm going to get 3 people to come over. I'm going to pick the middle price or the cheapest price, or, you know, but I'm gauging all this on look and feel over a couple of short meetings and price, because I don't know enough technical details to know how else to judge it, right? It's like a car. Like when I buy a car, I don't look under the hood and start asking them about the quality of the suspension. I mean, I'm like,
True.
yeah, I like blue. Okay, yeah.
There
Get me
you
a
go.
blue car,
Yeah.
right? So it's such a huge amount of risk that a homeowner's taking on, right? And it's supposed to be fun, right? We're supposed to have fun, getting a new kitchen, yay, it's going to be great. I'm thinking of all the parties afterwards, right? I'm not thinking of, you know, I've just handed over half my life savings to Bob, who I met 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
right? So is there a system? Is there a way? And that's why I've written the book, and I've done these courses in order to help people know what they don't know, and also the contractors. There are those risks in there that the contractors are not aware of within their own businesses,
Like not getting
right?
paid. You know, you see that a lot.
Well, this is the argument. And when you have this conversation with a contractor, it's generally adversarial, because they're thinking, you know, you don't know all the bad clients I've had that, you know, don't make the last payment or what.
Hmm.
So you've got this like, well, are you gonna, you know, take my money, or am I gonna take your money? And, you know, we'll dance through the project, and then at the end we'll see how we fight over the last little bit, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it, it's a horrible way to do business. It's not really how you want to think about your home project, right? So again, it's like, does this contractor, does their personal character agree with my personal character? If I'm, you know, a little bit laid back, a little bit reserved, and I don't want to chase you, but I'm still going to get upset at the end of the project, and then I'll voice my concern, right? Well, that's not doing anyone a service. So you, the contractor, might be doing things in a sequence that you haven't explained to me, right? Which is causing me grief. But now I'm going to cause you grief at a later date by holding it in and not telling you. So the book actually goes through all of this, because the book is done from a little bit of a Buddhist philosophical perspective on renovation. So it's not telling you how to renovate, how to be a contractor, but it's telling you how to speak to a contractor so you can be understood and respected, so they respect you and your property the same, and also how to avoid bad contractors, or how to stop a contract mid-process without losing a whole bunch of money, right? So we have what we call the prenup in there. So It sort of the name says it all, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm halfway through the project. I don't like what's being done, but they have my money, so I can't really, I've lost the leverage to get what I want out of this project. And now at the end, I'll be disgruntled because now, did I really get what I thought I was getting? Am I getting what I paid for? You know, I'm getting screwed kind of thing, right? Well, maybe, maybe not. Depends whose perspective you're coming from. And that's why there's so much grief from the contractor side. And again, it depends on the size of the contractor, the sophistication of the contractor. A contractor could have a whole team of people in the office, and they could have 6 projects on the go, and they will perhaps manage some of those problems I've mentioned better, but then they bring in a whole host of other issues because now they've got more overhead. So now they've got to push your milestones and timelines to meet their cash requirements
Yeah.
on their end too, right? So it's not always visible to you on your project what's really going on, because if they're doing 6 projects and you're one of 6, now you've got even less information because you don't know the people that weren't there on Tuesday. Well, that's because they've got 5 other projects to do, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're getting called. It's like, why aren't you done there? I need you over here. And then when they come back to your project and you've got maybe the best drywall guy in the city on this crew, and they were sold to you as, I've got a really good group of trades. That's why you want to work with me, because I'm a reputable contractor. But I've worked that A-plus crew to death over the last 6 months of pushing them from job to job to job, that by the time they get to your job, they're operating at a C level,
Yeah.
right? And so how do you manage all of that? And some of that is a conversation. It's like, you know what, maybe we should only run at this project 4 days a week, because we know we're only going to get a half day out of them on Friday, but we're going to end up paying for a full day. So let them go and do something else. And that way I get Friday, Saturday, Sunday to myself in my half finished home, right? But it gives me a chance to reset mentally as well,
Yeah.
because I've got that little safe space.
So what do you think, let's talk problems. What do you think the number one way homeowners get taken advantage of by contractors, and why do most people not see it coming?
Well, there are problems that the contractor doesn't see coming either. Why are you fighting for that check? And why do contractors push for a lot of capital up front? And part of it is the contractors have been mentally prepared that the client looks for the lowest price. So there's a lot of pricing pressure there too, right? Um, which means that projects should probably cost more than they do. The contractor may be operating close to break even, small profit, big profit on one job, no profit on the next, especially if you're losing that last 10% on a check on a frequent basis if people aren't paying the last 10%, right? So you've got an unstable business, right? So now you need to sign the next project to pay for the one you're trying to finish up right now, right? And that's where it's important to see what other projects the contractor's working on before you sign with them, because you want to see something in process. Because if you can talk with that homeowner, you can understand what's happened in the last 3 months on their project and what the characteristics of the contractor are. You know what? They do take every Tuesday off, but I don't care, because I'm not paying them by the hour. I'm paying them for results, and they've met all the milestones.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, so my expectations are no work on Tuesdays. I can plan around that. I can do my podcasts on Tuesdays or whatever it is. But is it a problem? Is it is it just an idiosyncrasy like leaving the concrete on the grass, right? It's like if you're unaware, right, and unable to have a process in place where, you know what, I get a daily email with photographs that show this is what we did today. This is what we plan to do today. This is what actually got done. This is how we have to adjust next week's schedule to account for today's reality. And because we said it'd take 3 months, but I didn't tell the contractor I only expected them to work 4 days a week, that 3 months is actually 3 months and 2 weeks. And I'm okay with that. So I've built in a little bit of a fudge factor there. But again, depends on the sophistication of the client. If you yell at a contractor, they won't want to come back. They may come back because they feel obligated, but they're not going to perform optimally. So you have to regulate yourself in such a way that you can be like the calm center of the project and also be able to voice issues, concerns, red flags as they happen so they don't become bigger problems. But it requires you to take on a different persona because the project's going to transform you. You will not be the same person at the end of the project as you were at the beginning of the project.
It's true.
Right? And that's where this kind of Buddhist philosophy in the book comes from, right? Because it's a transformation.
You know, so it sounds to me like outside of the trust factor, a lot of it has to do with organization with these contractors. You know, it's like how organized are they? And if they take on too much, you know, does it destroy that organization or does it bolster it? I mean, you know, we talk AI, right? But the funny thing is, you know, I think for one, I don't think AI is ever going to take, you know, HVAC jobs, home builder jobs. And if it does, I think it's going to be long after we're gone because, I mean, you're going to see robots in houses within the next 10 to 15 years for sure. They're going to be doing small things, you know, laundry and folding clothes and putting it away and doing dishes. Like I can see that. But from a creation perspective, it's not going to be as easy for, you know, a AI driven robot to be able to come in, know exactly what's going on. I mean, it could probably figure out what's going wrong, but actually fix it itself. I think we're ways away from that. So I do think at least from a, you know, contractors and you know, laborers like that, you're probably not going to see them replaced anytime soon. So at least it gives them job security, but they can at least use the AI to organize their life a little, organize their business a little bit better. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I use AI for just about everything.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, it will help on the organizational side, but unless you're getting those daily inputs from what's happening on the site, that paperwork's meaningless,
Yeah.
right? All it's doing is really showing you how you're managing your cash flow. And because it's a people problem, and until we take the people out of the equation, it's all egos and, you know, you see it in commercial work, especially on LinkedIn and what have you. Everyone's an expert, everyone's fighting with everyone else. And it's like these people are responsible for huge sums of money and big commercial projects, and yet somehow they're letting the ego write the check, right?
Yeah.
And you're seeing it in a microcosm on these renovations. Now, doing new construction with a home, I mean, I've had some clients where we're doing like a $4 or $5 million reno on like a $20 million property. And then at the end of it, the client's like, you know, you were right in the beginning. We should have torn it down and just built a new house, right? It probably would have been cheaper, right? And then you get exactly what you want. So when
Yeah.
you're doing renovation, you need a whole different skill set, especially on an older property.
Interesting. Now, you use the phrase contractor proof. Walk me through what that means in practice, and what does a
Sure.
contractor proof homeowner look like versus someone who's going in blind?
Well, in addition to the whole kind of mental reframe
Yeah.
and having a sense of calm, which we go through as well, it's understanding the incentives of a contractor. And then, if there's 10,000 contractors in your city and you're going to interview or get quotes from how many, right? And if you say, well, 3, 5, I mean, you need selection, right? You need whoops, sorry about that.
You're good.
Need a huge selection, or at least a deeper pool to pull from, right? So you can take, your top 10, 20 contractors in the city that you think would be appropriate, and you can email them not a please come and quote my job, but here's, you know, my project the way I see it, and we'd like you to come and look at it. And then before you do any of that, we work with you to basically take your mood boards and your Pinterests and your HGTV ideas
Yeah.
and solidify it into something that a contractor can understand, right? So that's normally step one, is so we figure that part out. And then before you send the contractor, this bid package, basically, you you're going to ask them 3 or 4 questions just to qualify them to begin with. It's like, if you're awarded this project, can you get a reference letter from your bank, right? Just saying you're a good credit risk, right? That might knock 50% of them out of the process to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, all those problems we were talking about earlier, maybe we don't have those conversations because we're already dealing with a better pool of candidates. But also recognize that if you're doing a smaller project, or a very tight budget project, maybe you don't have the ability to attract those better tier contractors, potentially.
Yeah.
Right? Depends how you approach them. If they think you're a problem, maybe they won't come and quote it at all. So by positioning it as a bid package, as opposed to, I'm the 10th person to phone you this week asking you to take an hour on a Saturday night to come out and look at my project, kind of thing, you're going to get a different response, right?
Yeah.
When I would quote out different parts of a project for these large homes, I would just take the drawings for, countertops or whatever, and I just email them to, 10 local countertop shops, and see which ones got back to me, which ones didn't, what the prices were like. And then you've got your preferred ones that you like to deal with anyhow. And so you're able to get that data back. So now all of a sudden, instead of just 3 quotes and it's a little random, you've at least qualified them to a degree, right?
Yeah.
So that those few things there that I just shared, takes you leaps and bounds above, all those TV shows about, they took my money and my house is all torn apart, and that now they've developed a whole TV series around just that one problem, right?
It's true.
Right, because you see, I don't know, Homes on Homes, right? He's very popular up here, but it was always, 30 years of him coming in, tearing apart the house and saying, oh yeah, see, they did all this ass backwards type of thing, right? Now I'm going to spend 3 times as much money to make it right. But nobody says, well, how could we have avoided this in the first place? And that's why I've written this, because I'm trying to solve an unsolved problem that's been there for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, obviously you sign a contract with these guys, right? Say you have someone that, let's talk practical, right? Say you have someone that's, you know, you're talking with a contractor and, you know, you're about to put pen to paper. But before you do it, what are like the top 2 or 3 things that you should do before you sign that contract?
Well, obviously you want to make friends with the people they're already working with,
Yep.
because if you're friendly with them and there's a problem on one of their projects, you're going to hear about it. Maybe they don't want to pay the contractor, and now that cash flow problem is going to ripple into your project. So you need that information, right? Nobody does that, right? It's a little, that's like gold right there, right?
Interesting.
So between that and the banking reference, right?
Yep.
We're assuming that people are licensed, that they're going to pull permits, that they've got, a track record behind them. Those are just table stakes. So before you sign the contract, you want to make sure, like, who wrote the contract? Did you write it and the contractor's going to blindly sign it? Probably not. But the contractor's probably expecting you to sign their standard contract. Look, it's standard. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. You can trust us. It's all upside from here, right? So that's where you need that prenup. So you're going to have to do a little horse trading there
Yeah.
to get those prenups into the contract. And if they're like, look, we want to work with you, but there's no way we're putting that prenup in there. It's like, okay, that's fine. We'll break the project into stages. You finish stage 1, we sign stage 2. So you may find that adds a little bit of lead time to the overall project, but how big of a rush are you in? How much of a time premium do you need in that project, right? Because a lot of people get caught out with, we reached a milestone, we wrote the next big check, and nobody did the inspection of that milestone. Yes, the work was complete, but it failed a structural review, which wasn't done. Right? I have a good friend, and she ended up in this problem. Her father's a retired architect, and they had this huge addition done, and they poured a big concrete pad, and apparently there was like a living space below the concrete pad, and there wasn't enough rebar in it, and it was supposed to like hold a car or something, and so now that's a huge problem. And if you're a small regional contractor and you didn't get that inspected properly, or the engineer work wasn't done properly, now all of a sudden, can you afford to even absorb the cost to redo that or not? Right? And so
Yeah.
instead of doing the right thing, right? Because having ethics and doing the right thing actually costs money,
It's
right?
true.
So now, do I make this person whole and put myself out of business, or do I just run away and deal with a lawsuit for 3 or 4 years, right? Which is
Yeah.
unfortunately where my friend ended up, right? Even though she had her father as an architect involved and everything else, they still stepped right into that problem, right? And I mean that's very sad. And now you're living in a half-finished house, and she's also going through a divorce and everything else, right? So, but this is common, right? But nobody's thinking of this when they sign that contract, right? It's all upside. You're thinking of the finished product. You're thinking of how I'm going to act in that space once it's done. I'm not thinking of the risk I'm taking. And I don't want to paint a whole bunch of horror stories and try to scare people, right?
Yeah.
I that's why I've got a free course that I do as well, that gives all the basics as well. Um, and the book's only like $10 on Amazon, right? So it's just like it's a necessary piece of information that seems to be lacking out there, and that's why I put the time into it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I definitely think it's important. You know, what are some, you're vetting these guys, right? This is kind of before the contract hits paper still. You're vetting these guys. What are some red flags that are that would scream at you, like run, don't use this guy, for
Well,
me, if he's using a pager, I'm out. Guy's using a pager, I'm out.
okay, but see, a pager is just a form of technology, maybe an outdated form of technology.
Yeah.
But if you're someone that loves retro stuff and you happen to have a collection of pagers, you might be like, this is the guy for me, right? It's like, what does he do with that technology? Is it
Yeah.
that technology is so out of date it can't keep up with the stream of information that I need on a daily basis in this project to stay on top of it, so I feel informed, so I can see a problem in advance and deal with it? Or is it just a case of, it's a pager and I'm okay with what is it, a 2-line text? I don't know what the capacity was of those things, but
I don't remember either. I think I owned one as a afterthought. Like I think I
wow.
bought one at a yard sale or something. Like I wasn't old enough to use it. And then, when cell phones really kind of started to become a little more mainstream, that's when I started, that's when I jumped in. I was a little too
Yeah,
young for
yeah.
pagers.
As a teenager running home to watch MTV in the afternoon, you'd see,
Oh yeah.
Sir Mix-a-Lot with a pager or something and a video. That'd be about it. Yeah, so a little before my time as well. So I mean, those are the key things. If you can't get a prenup built in, then find a way to limit your exposure by chopping that contract up into uh, different phases. Like you could have like a framing phase where you're just buttoning up the house with a shingles and some paper just to wrap it and make it watertight. And
Yeah.
then the next phase could be, exterior cladding and interior electrical, plumbing, drywall type of thing, right? And then another phase for all your finish goods, your flooring, trim, etc., right? So there's a natural flow to that. The contractor's going to know what's going to work best. I'm not suggesting you micromanage them, but you need to be informed. You can't have so much anxiety about the project that you relinquish control just because it feels good.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're spending a lot of money, I mean, I was freaking out when I spent, you know, 10 grand, and I couldn't imagine, you know, spending 100 grand, which, is, I'm sure, light when it comes to, a reno. Um, but you got these people that are spending, $500,000 and things like that on maybe an older house. But I don't know if I could feasibly do that in good conscience. But I actually have never heard of splitting up the project. I think that's a pretty great idea in terms of, kind of minimizing risk for both you and the contractor, right? Because,
Yeah.
You have, say it's a large project that would take 5 months. Maybe, you cut it into 5 phases and each phase is a month or something like that. And then you also have a kind of a timeline of where to go. And I think that's interesting. I never heard of people doing that.
Well, as a project manager or an independent contractor without any in-house trades where you just sub everything out, that's probably a fairly common way to do it. Now, you may have some preferred people where you know the quality of their work, or you keep them kind of with a carrot on a string, kind of like finish this and you get that type of thing, just to keep things moving forward. But you have to think of ways to limit risk and still get the best result. So you've got to pick, like, do you want quality or price or speed. Pick two, right? That famous quote, right? So, and contractors love to throw that in people's faces too, right? But
Yeah.
what is speed? Like, is a speed like working an all-nighter to get the project done because we're in the last phase of the project and it's a mad rush to get everything finished? And there's no real way to avoid that. I've tried throughout projects to try and do as much things up front, try and front load every phase of a project, and you still end up rushing around with things at the last minute.
Yeah.
Um, we're just talking about managing the contractor. We're not talking about managing the project. We're not talking about, how to pick a faucet. We're not talking about kitchen design. Those are all
Yeah.
the fun things that I did for years, right? This is just one very tiny, tiny little part of the whole big puzzle, but it seems to be the one that leads to the most misery because there's so many shows out there. There's so many people on TikTok and what have you where they're crying about projects gone wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean that's anything, right? I mean, I look at it. It's not just homes, but I mean it could be really anything in life. I know me personally, I definitely do the multiple quotes. I've done that. I do a ton of research. I'm one of those people where I will do so much research that it would annoy someone,
Mm-hmm.
and that's for anything that I do. I researched that blender for quite some time before I researched it again and pulled the trigger. I've researched, different things to build around the house, and I look at reviews. I think a chunk of it, and I don't know if it's a 50-50, but I think on the person that's getting whatever work done in anything in life, you should do your own research, right? Check reviews. Look at if they have a portfolio. Look at it. Like, you can't just call someone up that you found on Google and just trust that they're the best in the world, right?
Unfortunately, what you're saying there, it makes sense, right? But that portfolio and those reviews, are they really painting a good picture?
Yeah.
It like with a blender, we've made 10,000 or 100,000 of these blenders. 3% of them were lemons, but that's only 3%,
Yeah.
right? So you've got a much deeper pool of information to pull from, right? With this, it's like, well, he does 3 to 10 projects a year, right? And last year they were great projects. Don't talk to me about what happened 2 years before that because there were a couple bad ones in there. But he's gotten a lot better, right? So as
Sample
long as
size is a lot
uh,
smaller.
so as long as Jimmy doesn't leave before your project starts, that drywall's going to be perfect,
Yeah.
right? So we're not trying to beat on contractors because they're trying. A lot of them are trying to do good work, but they're not aware of their own risks. Like I said, with the cycle, the business cycle, especially like in today's economy, right? Where things are getting pushed, everyone's feeling a little squeezed, right?
Yeah.
So, how does the contractor perform in that? Is he going to perform the same way in this environment as he did in the environment when those reviews were done,
It's true.
right? So, like, there's a lot of moving parts there, right? And we're trying to deal with, you know, human incentives, right? So the book itself, it's written with a cast of characters, right? So let me just look over here. I would call you, where is it? You're the over researching. Let's see. Sorry,
Just
sorry.
you
I
saying
guess
over
I
researching, you got me. So
well, yeah. I mean, because like you start off as like the nervous newcomer, and the hopeful homeowner, and then the people pleasing planner, um, right? And then the scope guarding scholar, and the skeptical spender, and the trusting dreamer, and the truth talker. And you end up as the confident captain. right? But it's a journey, right? And if you're aware of the process and you've put these checks and balances in place up front, you can then sit back and have fun with the project. And if it takes a little longer, maybe that's okay because I'm enjoying the process. I know I've hired someone that I can get along with, and I'm not worried that they're going to ghost me or they're going to run out of money or whatever's going to happen because I vetted them up front with all the things we spoke about,
Yeah.
right? So it's a way of relaxing into the project, but not because someone said trust us, but because we've done the due diligence, right?
Yeah. Last words for people, right? Trust us. We're the best. You're fine.
Well, that's basically what it is. All these sites that give you all the reviews and the 5-star ratings and stuff, they're constantly soliciting the contractors to pay them for advertising and leads. Like even Home Depot, when you sign up with Home Depot and you're like, "Oh, come out and quote a project for me," right? And they send one of their certified contractors. If you don't go with them, they normally recycle those leads and they sell them in a third market, right?
Doesn't shock me. I work in insurance, and I know lead companies that do the same exact thing for insurance leads. It's lead companies and companies that do that. They're I don't want to say they're vampires, but they're pretty close.
Well, it's again, it's a system to make money. If a contractor doesn't move quickly through a project and address all the objections quickly and then move on to the next project, he goes out of business,
Yeah.
right? So he has to, his objectives and yours are not necessarily the same. Hopefully they align at the end of the project, right? Because if they don't align at the end of the project, that's when everyone gets upset. So it's a case of knowing the ebb and flow of a project and how to meet that sweet spot at just the right time.
I mean, that's why I do for a lot of stuff. If it makes sense, I do like going through like a Lowe's because a lot of times they'll guarantee things. So at least if the contractor comes in and they're not great or they don't do a great job, I know that I have something to fall back on. If you're not going through them, you don't have that kind of extra security blanket. But a lot of times you're not getting a whole, home reno or a whole kitchen built by Lowe's or Home Depot.
Well, they do whole kitchens. I've seen them
Oh,
do it.
really? I didn't know that.
I've seen the back end of it too. There's one guy in the back corner office, and he's just pulling his hair out all day, every day, right? And I've seen it where they've had some where they've actually refunded people like 100% after like 2 years, kind of thing, going back and forth. But
Wow.
for the most part, you're paying a premium, but you're right, you're getting, that
Security.
big
Peace of
big
mind.
brand behind you, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's why there's so many different types of contractors out there. Some people, they want the cheapest price, right? They just like, it has to be the cheapest price, right? And then, but they're not thinking of the ramifications of that.
Now let's end with your book, man. You wrote a book. What was your writing process like? How long did it take you to put it together? And how do you feel it's done its first couple months out?
Well, you this is the beauty of AI, right? Is
Yeah.
you've got big projects in your head that you've been rolling around for years, and you know exactly what you want. And working with, an AI assistant, you can get that 30 years of knowledge down onto, a consumable format. And then it allows you to take that expensive knowledge that, people are paying for on these large projects, and it democratizes it for everybody,
Yeah.
right? So if it saves a few people, some heartbreak, then it's done its job. It's not there to be a top seller or anything like that. It's something that needed to be put out into the world, and it's there. And I included a little bit of that philosophical approach to reframe what construction is and allow people to enjoy the process and the transformation.
Now, do you have a second book in the works?
I've got a couple of thoughts, yeah, but we'll get some more info from this one back to see what people need next. But it's really, it has to serve a need, right?
Yeah.
I don't write for the fun of it. It's not my first love. It was more information that needed to be put out there, but packaged in a fun way with all these cast of characters in your head as you transform along the journey.
I like that, man. I like that. I'll tell you this: if you end up getting an audiobook, I'm definitely gonna buy a copy. I'm an audiobooker, so
Yeah, me too. Me too.
it's the only way I get through my drive into the office and my drive home. So,
Well, one thing I learned was 72 bite-sized chapters. So you can read them all within a short span of time. So I started off writing it as a traditional book, and then I learned that's not the way people read anymore. So
yeah,
so
no.
they're all
No attention span.
except for
Unfortunately,
podcasts, except for long-form podcasts.
which blows my mind, to think about. But well, look, man, it was a pleasure having you on. Just plug yourself. Where can everyone find your content, your book, and all that?
Well, I'm big on LinkedIn. I'll be pushing more into TikTok soon. Reno Mess Tribe.com is the website, and through Reno Mess on Amazon is there, and the courses are on maven.com.
Awesome. My podcast, Drink O'Clock Pod, on all socials. Drink O'Clock Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll have this episode up before you know it. So, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day, man. I appreciate you, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Boom.
On a stormy night where legends unfold, there's a podcast that's breaking the mold. Raise your voices, raise your glass high. Welcome to the Drink O'Clock Podcast. Let's dive. Oh, grab an old fashioned and join the fray. Raise your spirits, let the music play. From the corner pub to the dance hall floor. Drink O'Clock Podcast, we're ready for more. We're ready for more. With a mix of folklore and rebel cheer, we'll guide you through tales of whiskey and beer. From Irish shores to lands afar, grab your friends, it's time to raise the bar.